Some of the names that are moving clubs this AFL free agency and trade period are honestly going to shake up the league, not just the AFL fantasy and SuperCoach community. And the trade that went through that kicked it all off doesn't really do much of that. But regardless, we are still going to look at Liam Reidy and what this ruck move means for the club he's left. As a Fremantle Docker, he has heave-hoed his way all the way to the Carlton Football Club. And what are the benefits for the club he's landed at, what it means for where he's left, and for us that play AFL Fantasy and SuperCoach heading into 2026, is there some possible upside and relevance for us heading into a new season of fantasy footy? We didn't see much of Liam Reidy at AFL level at all, let alone this year. He's got a handful of games to his career, just the one this season, and a score in and around the mid-30s, depending on the format that you play. But it's been at the lower levels that Reidy really has been dominating the WAFL. And especially this year, it was really, really noticeable. He had 4 games this season just removed, where he had 50 plus hitouts, including a seasonal high 65. So he's got no problems, at least at the WAFL level, showing that he's got some traits that as a ruckman lend itself to be really, really positive. So there's some good signs here that he can distribute the ball well at, again, it's not AFL level of football, but he's shown at the limited opportunities he's got, he's more than serviceable, and he's showing at the WAFL level that this guy can really contribute to the midfield mix that he's sitting in. What does this mean for the club that he's left? Well, partially one of the reasons why he's left is looking for more opportunities and to at least get himself one kind of rug on the ladder up a little bit more. Rug up the ladder? Run up the ladder? Come on, MJ, get it right. He's kind of been sort of third and fourth fiddle option for a long period of time at Fremantle. So he's the insurance policy, basically, for when Jackson and Darcy miss, then he gets his opportunity. Funnily enough, he got one of those games this year. But it's going to be fascinating for me to see what they do this Fremantle off-season play, because, look, they don't really have anything that's ready-made on the need. And now, again, if Darcy goes down, Jackson's number one ruck, and then they'll use the likes of Voss and Draper and Tracy to kind of cover the gap. So it's kind of okay. Or in the inverse of that, Darcy does it on his own if Jackson goes down. So really they are looking for an insurance policy, but they don't really have an insurance policy ruck on the list. I know Riddle might become that, but he's very, very raw. So I think his departure out just means that the club will either probably most likely go and get an SSP or one of the delisted free agent rucks, or even offer a really late pick and kind of have the ruck roulette running around somewhere else, and just offer someone a spot to be the third banana option should they need to get there. I think in Fremantle's ideals is this person that they recruit, because again, I just don't think they've got a ruck that they wouldn't happily say, but if they were forced to play, I just don't think they've got that on the list. They'd be like, we'll be okay. They need something that's an insurance policy. So I can see them this off-season just spending some time in some capital space on their list, being able to get the insurance policy that Reidy has been, to be able to replicate that. They don't have it on the list right now. They're going to have to go and do something about that. Again, I think a DFA or an SSP is probably the way they're most likely going to go about it. What does it mean for Carlton? Well, they've needed to bolster their ruck stocks a little bit with the departure of Tom de Koning as a free agent. They targeted Reidy as a guy that's a little bit behind the pecking order, and they've gone and now landed him through trade. Is he the number one ruck option? For Blues fans, I'll say this. I hope not. Reidy's not yet a finished product. He's still got some growth and development. And as optimistic as I was right at the top of this episode about what he's showing at the WAFL level, and again, he's been dominant in moments around that, the gap between a dominant ruck at WAFL and a competitive number one ruck choice at the AFL level, there is a bit of a gap at the moment. And so I think for Carlton fans, while he may one day become your number one ruck outlet, I think the addition here is a signalling that Pitternet is where you're going to be heading in the ruck for 2026. That's not necessarily a bad thing at all around that. I think he's more than serviceable as a ruckman, but that's exactly what he is, serviceable around that. Reidy, to me, has left Fremantle where he's third in line. He's now jumped over to Carlton where he's second in line. And again, if a few things go his way, he develops well over the pre-season, maybe as the year goes on, he can nudge out Pitternet. But right now, if I was hedging, I'd be saying that absolutely it's Pitternet's spot and Reidy is here as the backup. He's just that one step closer to AFL than he was as a Fremantle Docker. What does it mean for us that play fantasy footy in 2026? Well, politely, the price point is absolutely attractive. He's basically a rookie option for us. So I can understand why maybe you're tuning in on this episode going, hang on, MJ, have we got a value R2 here? Have we got a playing cheap R3 that is going to do something for us that we can throw in utility and SuperCoach, or that we can really get squad versatility? I get the attraction, but I do not see it happening. Now, if Pitternet goes down injured in the preseason, game on, because he's going to score as consistent as most of our non-midfield or halfback type cash cows anyway. But right now, no, unless something drastically happens to the health of Pitternet, he is not an option for you. Maybe in a deep dynasty or keeper league where you're handcuffing to Pitternet. And I'm sorry, but if that's your number one ruck on your draft, your list is in trouble, okay? He's not a fantasy scorer either. So irrelevant, barring an injury happening to Pitternet. And even then, he just becomes a consideration in Classic and not much more. But what's your take on the trade move of Liam Reidy? Really given up for chips as far as I'm concerned, but a handy bit of depth option for Carlton. You can have your say. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment below and let me know what's your ruck structure that you're thinking of running heading into the AFL Fantasy and SuperCoach season for 2026. And if you're listening to this as an audio podcast, reach out to us across Coach's Panel, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or X. We'd love to get your thoughts on this and all the other players that are moving clubs this trade and free agency period. And here on this channel, wherever you're checking out this episode, we'll be giving you our review of each player that has moved clubs, what it means for where they've left, where they've landed at, and what it means for you playing fantasy footy in 2026. Thanks so much for tuning in. We wish you well, and we can't wait to be back again soon with another player review of someone that has moved clubs this AFL offseason.